Hi, I'm Ashley Hammond.
And I'm Locke Hammond.
We're married.
We run a business together.
And we homeschool our 4 kids.
That makes us sound a little crazy.
I think people might think we're a little crazy.
Well, through all that crazy, we're here to help you blaze your own trail through a world designed for conformity.
And break the chains holding you back from living an uncommon life.
This is Trailblazers and Chainbreakers.
Hey, friends.
Hello.
Welcome to our podcast.
You make it sound creepy.
I was a little creepy.
It's a little bit. All right. What are we talking about?
Oh, you tell me.
Well, we have a question.
Yeah.
What is health?
What is health? Oh.
What is health? All right. So I want to start by talking about this idea that you and I have thrown back and forth a little bit about foundational beliefs. And like a thought or a belief you have that you build an entire system of thought off of, kind of like the bottom of a pyramid or the foundation of a house. And if you have a foundational thought that is flawed, then everything you build off of it can be really logical and make total sense, but also be totally wrong. So I was trying to come up with an example for this. And I couldn't come up with great examples, but I came up with one thinking about taking our daughter to the doctor a couple of weeks ago. And you know those, like the sewer covers, not the manholes, but the ones with holes, like the wastewater drainage, like on the road. Yeah. All the extra water runoff runs into them. So she was walking across the parking lot and got totally distracted by one of those staring down the holes. And so this is where this example is coming from. So our kids love those, but in the beginning they were really scared of them. Yeah. They thought they would fall through. So if you take that kind of as a foundational thought that the grates are not going to hold you up, and you bring that into like an adult walking across a parking lot, if an adult built a thought process off of the thought that storm grate or whatever it's called is not going to hold them, they'd look like a fool walking through a parking lot. So they could be very logical. It'd be very logical if they thought that they were going to fall through. It'd be very logical for them to freak out. You see, so unprofessional. Alarms going off in the middle of a podcast.
I mean, I have an alarm for everything.
What are you, mother of 4 children, running around, starting your own business? You busy or something?
Something like that. Sorry.
If you don't mind, can we get back to this? All right. So you see my example. You can build a very logical thought process off of a belief, and if that belief is wrong, it will not get you the results or not actually prove to be true. And so if we bring that back to the question at hand about what is health, we are going to kind of pick this apart, but the flawed foundational concept that health is just about what you eat and drink, if somebody builds their thought process off of that, they can have a completely logical, well thought out, well researched even approach to their health based on only what they eat and drink, and they can still not have health. Yeah. Because health is about a whole lot more than just what you eat and drink. And it reminds me of a quote that you love. I know you love. Do you have the quote? You want to read us the quote?
Yeah. Your diet is not only what you eat, it is what you watch, listen to, read, and the people you hang around. Be mindful of the things you put into your body, emotionally, spiritually, and physically.
I like that quote.
Yeah, it's a good quote. And I want to start off by saying I never even thought, to be honest with you, anything besides the food that you put on your plate when it came to health. Nutrition was always not always, but over the past, I want to say 7 years, a really big deal. Eating healthy, putting clean foods in our bodies, in our kids' bodies has meant a lot to me. And it's a lot of the reason why I started going to school for what I went to school for at IIN. The director of the school said something very interesting, and he said, I know some of the healthiest people, they do yoga, they exercise 5 to 7 days a week, they eat the cleanest diets, and they are the most miserable people that I know. And he also said, I know some other people that eat a horrible diet and don't exercise, and they're some of the happiest people I know. And that's not to say that you should eat a bunch of crap and not take care of your body, but it truly made me think. And then after that, I was taught, primary food is, your social life, your spiritual creativity, your career, your marriage, the environment that you live in. And the secondary food is actually the food that is on your plate that you eat every day. And that really got my gears turning on what that really meant to me. And I didn't think about that, but then I started thinking about it on a level of my health. I eat really clean most of the time, and I was still not feeling well for a while, and I was frustrated because I was taking care of my body, but there were some things that I wasn't taking care of, and it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So let's go back to that primary and secondary food idea again, because I know that caught me not off guard. It makes total sense once you hear it, but when you say the phrase primary food, I'm thinking primary colors, a certain type of food, macronutrients and protein and carbohydrates and fat or something like that. And that line of thinking is that the primary food for your body and your being is all of these things that you just listed off, and then the secondary food is what you actually put into your mouth.
Yeah.
That's kind of that goes completely against everything we were taught in school, to be honest with you.
I mean, it kind of threw me off, and I never really even thought about it before either. I'm wow. I was always taught that, and we didn't learn this in school. Let's be clear. We didn't learn the right ways to eat in school. But I was, from everything I had been learning and that I was extremely passionate about, was, eating healthy and taking care of your body, which is very important. But these other things, I don't think people pay enough attention to or think that it is as big of a deal as it is.
Yeah, there's a lot of people. You mentioned your experience a little bit. There's a lot of people who I think have experienced something similar in dialing in their nutrition and their exercise even. And because those are the first two things people think about when they think about whether it's losing weight or getting healthier or whatever framework they're looking through, it's exercise and nutrition.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people who, like yourself, dialed in their exercise, dialed in their nutrition, and saw some results, but still not experiencing health.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of frustration there, and it's not that they're doing it the wrong way. They're just missing some pieces.
Yeah, they're not in alignment with other things. I guess it can go the same as the person that has a career, a very successful career, and they are making a boat ton of money, but yet everything else is lacking. Their nutrition, they're not eating healthy, their relationships aren't well, their social life isn't going well. They don't have any kind of spirituality practice. So I think the same is for anything. If you spend way too much time on one thing, but you're not paying attention to other things, there's a lot of different aspects of a person's life. It's not just one thing, and solely focusing on that.
Yeah. It reminds me, brings up another word that you use sometimes, bio-individuality.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is, explain that a little bit to us. Everyone's different.
Everyone's different, and I think that's why I get really annoyed with the fitness industry, because a new fad will come out, a new diet, and I'm not gonna lie, I fell for this paleo diet, keto, a new exercise, and they make a boat ton of money off of convincing people that their way is the right way, and if you eat any other way or do any other type of exercise, it's the wrong way. And it's really a bunch of crap, because there's no one individual that there's this magic cure diet or exercise. And to be completely honest, the body is always changing, and I think switching it up, I think, is the way to do. If something worked for you, for 2 years, I actually just heard a story. I heard a woman a woman and her husband went completely vegan. They were eating paleo for years. They went vegan. They felt awesome on vegan. Were convinced that they were going to be vegans for the rest of their life. Then they noticed 2 years later that they started to like have some not so great digestive symptoms and stuff like that. And then they realized it was because they weren't getting any protein. And I'm not to say that everybody should have a protein diet, but that's to say that maybe something works for you for 2 years and your body really likes it in that season of your life, but it doesn't mean that that's how you're supposed to be for the rest of your life.
Right. There's no one size fits all.
Yeah.
And I think we've kind of figured out what works for each of us individually, although we don't always follow the rules.
No.
Sometimes we cheat. But I think the belief that, like, pick your poison, whichever one of the diets you want to use as an example, the belief that that is the right answer for everyone or everyone in a certain category. That's what the idea of bio-individuality goes against that. Everyone's different. Everyone's going to respond differently to a different diet or a different situation. And so this concept, you started railing on the fitness and diet industry. And I agree with you. It plays on, they want to sell something. And so they play on your feelings of guilt or inadequacy, and they make you feel bad about yourself until they get what you want.
Yeah.
It's kind of like all of the wokeism stuff that's going on now. They make you feel bad until you admit that they're right, basically. You don't have the full picture in terms of what you need for health in the way that our society portrays it as we're growing up. And so we fall right into the trap of feeling inadequate or being easily guilted because we think we're doing it the wrong way. And so we want there to be a diet that will fix all of our problems, or a workout regimen that will fix all of our problems. So it's really easy to feel that way. And I think we're saying there's no one answer for everyone. I think the answer is making sure all of the areas in your life, which we can kind of talk about, but all the areas in your life are receiving attention.
Yeah.
And what that looks like for you, you need to kind of figure out on your own. There's no guru we're not going to come out and tell you, here's the answer. I mean, the answer is look at all aspects of your life and then figure out what works for you. But there's no, it's like knobs on a control board. You got to futz with them until you figure it out.
And not only that, you have to be, I don't want to say awake. You have to be in tuned enough with your body. You have to be, and that's why spirituality, I think, is so important. And I think that word is used a real lot now. And I don't think people really understand what that means. It doesn't have to mean you believe in God. It doesn't have to mean that like you're obsessed with the universe and the law of attraction. It just means that you are somewhat in tuned, not somewhat, fully in tuned with what is going on with your body, not somebody else's body, your body and what you need. And I think to totally be in tune with that, you got to have some kind of practice in place. And whatever that looks like for you, I mean, it's different. It could be being outside in nature. It could be meditating. It can be some type of exercise, but just stopping every day and asking your body what it needs and being able to hear what it needs.
Yeah. That's the big piece, I think. Being able to notice when something is affecting you in a good or bad way.
Yeah.
So that's a good place to start, the spiritual side of things, because if you're making changes in your life, let's say you're working on these things, but you can't slow down enough to notice whether tweaking this part of your routine to try not to stress yourself out so much before work is helping, or this piece of your diet and nutrition, changing that up. If you can't be aware of all these changes that might affect your overall health, that right there is a problem that's going to hold you back. You need to be able to pay attention to yourself.
Yeah. And I mean, I think a lot more goes into this too. I think you have to be at a place where you're able to slow down, where you're not just going, because it's easy for any of us, especially if we have a family, to get caught up in the daily grind and to like do the same thing over and over again and then go to bed and then wake up and then do the same thing and then go to bed and wake up. And like a lot of us don't take the time to stop, even ask what we need. We're just doing the same thing. It's like tire spinning, doing the same thing over and over again, not really paying attention and just kind of doing what we think we're expected to do or what somebody else expects us to do, instead of what we really want to do.
Yeah. Well, you started with spiritual, and I think talking about what you really want to do, I think that flies into the emotional aspect of things.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things that go into the emotional aspect of your health, your relationship with a significant other, work in your career, doing, like you just mentioned, what you want to do instead of what other people think you should do or what you think other people think you should do. If we go back to that quote, your diet is not only what you eat, it's what you watch, listen to, read, and the people you hang around with. We've all heard the other quote that reminds me of is you're a combination of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
That's weird. I was just going to say that.
Yeah. So
who'd that come from?
I don't know.
I remember you're the one that told me that. And,
oh, yeah.
And then now I see it
I'd love
everywhere.
to take credit for that, but I didn't come up with
it.
It
was years ago, and I wanted to not believe you, but how true is that?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so we've talked in the past about, the first thing on that list is what you watch. We've talked in the past about the news, how negative the news is. Mm-hmm. I would include not just, when you say watch, not just the television, but now our phones. So what we're seeing on social media, whether it's a video or not, I would consider that being watching, because if you're looking at pictures of other people's lives, I've said for years, social media is a highlight reel. And how can your reality compare to someone else's highlight reel? So if you are constantly staring at everybody else's pictures about how their beach vacation is going and how loving their husband is, and they just came from CrossFit, and look at how jacked they are, it's going to make you feel like shit.
Yeah.
And a lot of people can see the news affecting them, but I know you and I both struggled to fully see how much social media affected us for a while.
Yeah.
That was a tough one too. So, what you're watching affects your emotions.
Yeah.
What you're reading affects your emotions. The same idea of, okay, so I don't watch the news and I go to certain different websites to keep up with what's going on. And so the headlines and the articles that I'm reading, if I'm not careful, you'll call me out on it because you'll see me get dragged down into a rabbit hole or the fear porn or whatever it is, and have that affect me emotionally.
Yeah.
Even music.
Yeah.
There's some people, some artists that we love that have a really powerful message about things that are going on in the world. And it's worth hearing and it's worth talking about. But if we get in the habit of listening to that kind of message all the time, it's easy to get kind of angry or
very angry,
negative. And we already talked about the 5 people kind of theory. So, I mean, all these things kind of go into your emotional health. And you and I have both experienced times in our life where we have focused. So when we met, we were both very focused on, in terms of health, we were very focused on health in general, but our definition of health was diet and exercise.
Oh, yeah.
And I use the word diet instead of nutrition because we've come to understand that there is no such thing as a diet. It's if it's effective, it's your lifestyle. It's not, a diet makes it sound temporary and very restrictive.
And it was.
But that's what you and I thought nutrition needed to be. And so we were very focused on being healthy physically, I guess, diet and nutrition wise. And on the outside, we probably looked like we were, but we both pretty quickly experienced how you can if we call that physical health, your physical health can be there, but if your emotional health is off, then everything else gets thrown out of whack, and it doesn't matter how healthy you're eating and how much you exercise.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it was a trap that people fall into with the nutrition and the exercise part is like obsession. It's like an obsession that if you can't eat perfectly clean and I hate the word cheat, I don't like cheat, but you eat something not healthy or that you would normally eat, then you go down a rabbit hole of, I mean, at least I'm speaking for myself, that I'm some like terrible person.
Yeah.
Because I ate some ice cream or some french fries or both.
You breathed in from a donut.
Yeah.
And smelled it.
That like, I'm like horrible. Like that just makes me a horrible person. And that was not good for me mentally. And I just think anything that's very restrictive is just never good.
Well, it puts you into what I found, because if you told me that years ago, I would have argued not like endlessly with you. But you're right. And we have it recorded now of me saying you were right, so you can play that back as many times as you want. You're right in the idea that, so if it's restrictive, it's getting you stuck in a lack mindset. Mm-hmm. And a lack mindset doesn't help you in any way. Now, like the flip side of that is not, oh, well, Locke says I shouldn't have a lack mindset, so I'm going to go be abundant and eat this abundant box of 12 donuts.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm saying, but anytime you're stuck in a lack mindset, whether it's money, whether it's a diet kind of thought process, or any other aspect of life, you're stuck in a lack mindset. You're focused on the lack, and you're going to get more of what you're focusing on, which is lack.
Yeah.
So within nutrition, there are ways to get out of a lack mindset, right? Which is not the point of this podcast. But in general, anything that is restrictive, like you're saying, is going to bite you in the ass. No matter how much willpower you have, it's eventually going to bite you in the ass. Whether you snap and totally lose all of your health, perceived health gains by, just going nuts for 3 months and not exercising and eating crap all day.
Yeah.
Or whether you're just miserable because you are constantly thinking about how hungry you are, but you can't eat anything you want.
Yeah, and I think for myself, I wasn't eating clean it was like to get healthy, but it wasn't like I was thinking of myself like to be strong and to, stay, like to not get sick. It was get health. It was like I was like going to pass some finish line where I was going to like be super healthy and then like I could eat what I wanted or something. I don't know what I thought. It was like very backwards. But I also want to say like the restrictive with anything. Like I feel like any part of your life where you like try to be like super strict. Like I know you hear a lot of these successful people saying that like they don't drink and they don't watch TV and you have to do this and you have to do that. And while that might work for some people, I think other people that are entrepreneurs or, trying to open their own business, they think that they like have to get rid of all these things. And if they don't, and they're not super strict with themselves, that there's something also wrong with them. And I think you kind of like choose your poison. If you enjoy watching TV an hour to a half hour every night and like that is something that you enjoy, I don't think you necessarily have to get rid of that. And this is a conversation that, Locke and I had because we were like, well, I remember when we were like getting super strict with everything, we were like, should we like stop watching TV? Like, are we bad for watching TV? And I was like, no, because there's so many rules and there's so many people out there telling you what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing. And really it's about what you feel you should be doing or shouldn't be doing.
It comes down to, does it bring you joy?
Yeah.
I'm
not talking about binge watching Netflix like all day long. I'm talking about like if you watch an hour of TV at night and that's like your calm down thing and it like you like it, you enjoy it, then why give that up?
Right. Yeah. So I totally agree with TV. We thought about not watching TV. We know people who don't watch TV and like more power to them because, the hour of TV we watch each night, you could be, sleeping. You could get a little extra sleep. You could be reading a book. You could be improving yourself. You could be talking with your partner, whatever it may be. But we decided that brought us joy. like drinking coffee.
Yeah.
So you have at times stopped drinking coffee to see if it would make you feel better, or because you felt like you depended on it and you didn't want to depend on anything for a bunch of different reasons. And I decided, well, part of my morning routine is that first cup of coffee in the morning. It brings me joy. It's one of those things on our simple pleasures, simple joys list. It made sense to me, the reasons why you might want to stop drinking coffee. You in general, but also me, people in general. But for me, the trade-off wasn't there. The cup of coffee brings me joy. And I think that applies to, like you're saying, all of these areas. You have a ton of different areas that we could talk about. We already said what you watch, what you read, what you listen to, the people around you. Your sleep patterns, your relationships, your work, your career, what you do for fun, whether you do anything for fun. Yeah. Hobbies that you might have, your kids, as opposed to your relationship with your kids is important by themselves. It's not just about your relationship with your significant others, your relationship with your friends, on and on and on, right? It goes back to bio-individuality, which originally is talking about diets and the biology of your body, but it applies to this stuff as well. Everyone is different. Your definition of what you need out of a relationship is going to be different than mine. Your definition of what brings you joy in terms of food is going to be different than mine. The things you're willing to be strict on, the things that aren't worth it. So it's really about seeing all the areas of your life that would contribute to your health and kind of analyzing what you need and what you can get rid of. If you are honest with yourself, you're going to know whether something brings you joy or whether it's mindless. Yeah. So back to the TV example. If you're watching something and you find yourself not enjoying it, just vegging out, that's not bringing you joy. Yeah. Right? You could, theoretically, we're not going to preach to you that you should do anything, but you could use that in a different way. But if it's bringing you joy, we could be the most successful people in the world telling you that you should stop watching TV. If it's bringing you joy, why? Yeah. Why stop?
Yeah. I want to say the moral of this story. What we're trying to say is being more intentional. Yeah. I know for myself, the way that I go back here a lot, but the way I grew up and the people that I was surrounded with, I remember when I met my husband, our lives were very different. And I remember we were talking about like being kids and like the grown-ups in our life. And I honestly thought the life that I was living was the normal life. Like I thought that that's the way that everybody lived. I assumed that everybody lived the life that I was living. And then when my husband and I met and we were comparing like childhood and stories and, adults that he was around and adults that I was around, I was like, whoa. I was like, well, this isn't normal. Like the things that I was around was not normal. And it's not to say that like he had like this perfect life either. I'm just saying.
Well, I felt the same way about you too, though. And I know I'm interrupting, but I had my definition of what was normal. Yeah. Which was my experience. And then I learned about yours and I realized this is not normal either.
Yeah. So it's like sometimes if you're not intentional or you are just kind of going with the daily grind, you don't really even know how the people around you make you feel, or the TV that you watch makes you feel, or the music that you just kind of are just going with it. And there's a word that I'm trying to spit out here that I see thrown around a lot about, it's not like the daily grind. It's like,
you'll remember as soon as we're done.
Yeah, I can't remember it. But what my point is half the time, most people don't even realize how all of these things make them feel. Yeah. And it's really like a big deal once you do start to notice, because I know for myself, if I'm around somebody that is super likes drama or has like a lot of hectic stuff going on in your life, and like we all have our baggage. But like I know how that makes me feel now, and especially when it's not just like once in a while or they're going through a season, it's quite literally every day of their life for the last like 10 years. I know how that makes me feel when I'm around that. And I know that I don't want to be around that because it literally sucks all the energy out of me. The same with music. I grew up listening to every kind of music, rap mostly, but I listen to some pretty deep rock. I listen to it now and like I still like it, but I know that it doesn't make me feel good. And like even some of the rap music, the way that they talk about women, the way they talk about drugs, and the way they it's just some of the things that the wording that they use is just like horrible. And I was like, I grew up listening to this stuff and really liking it, but I know that now that it doesn't make me feel good. And even some of the TV shows I watched, like Keeping Up with the Kardashians, like I thought that was the coolest show ever. And now I think about it and I'm like, not only is it the most fakeish like show I've ever watched, but it's just not my ideal of people that I want to be surrounding myself with. If you watch that show, cool. I don't mean to make you feel bad, but that's where we're going back to like bio-individuality. I know for me, it didn't make me feel good, and it's going to be different for people that listen to this. It's just figuring out what works for you and being like aware of what's going on.
I like your example of the childhoods. You know, what you think is normal is something that you should question. You know, when we met, we had to question what we thought was normal. So if you take that idea and apply that to what you think is normal for what you watch, what you read, the amount of sleep you get, what's acceptable in a relation, you know, all these things, what is normal for you is something you should always be questioning.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that it's always wrong.
Yeah.
You know, normal could be living a great life, giving you great results. But, you know, it was an important lesson for each of us to realize that our childhood wasn't normal. And so that's made us start to be more open-minded in seeing other realities in the world. And I think that's an important piece of this. So, you know, if you think that everyone who does a certain thing, you know, reaches the goal that you're trying to reach, maybe that's an assumption that you should question. If it's not working for you, it's not working for a reason.
And stop listening to what everybody else tells you should do. I don't care if it's the biggest self-help guru there is, because trust me, when I got into self-development, I wanted to just have somebody tell me what to do. What should I do? Tell me what to do.
If it were only that easy.
And I mean, it's the same thing with diet and exercise. Just make it easy for me. Like instant gratification. Just give me the sauce and then I'm going to use it. And it's like, no, there is no one person that's going to give you this magic answer and it's going to just fix everything. It's taking little bits and pieces of everything that you learn, every book that you read, every podcast that you listen to, taking little bits of it all and doing what's right for you. Don't let anybody tell you what you need to do and fall into that trap of just wanting it to be easy.
Yeah. So, I mean, that sums it up pretty well. You know, if we circle back and we sum everything up, it would be do it your own way.
Yeah.
Your favorite expression I'll add, which is question everything.
Yes.
And listen to your body. Look at the whole picture. That's why, you know, holistic health is such a big thing in what you do with your clients. Looking at the whole picture, the emotional, the spiritual, the physical, but then listening to yourself, doing it your way, questioning everything, not in a argumentative way, but in a open-minded way. And there's no one size fits all.
Yeah.
Does that sum it up?
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Anything you want to add?
No, I think I went off a little bit already, so.
Okay.
I'm good.
All right. You spewed enough for the night?
Yeah, thanks,
okay.
guys.
All right, we'll talk to you guys next time.
Hi, friends. If you're enjoying the show, would you please leave a quick rating or review on Apple Podcasts for us? Doing this helps more people find the podcast, which means even more people can benefit from the conversations. We really appreciate you and your time, and thanks, as always, for listening.